Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk to you guys about what I believe to be one of the most accessible ways into brewing specialty coffee at home. These are Cometeer coffee capsules. They are basically perfectly brewed, concentrated coffee, then they're flash frozen inside of a small container like this, and in order for you to brew, all you have to do is melt it. Once you melt the capsules, you can pretty much make any single drink out there. The way to think about Cometeer capsules is that whatever's frozen in here is actually incredibly adaptable. It's not pre-ground at all, it's not instant coffee, it is actually brewed, concentrated coffee. The difference between this and, say, a perfectly brewed shot of espresso is that this doesn't have any body or texture to it. However, you can use this in a variety of other drinks, such as your pour-overs, lattes, and you can actually drink this straight. But I want to talk about more so what is this actually for, and from an accessibility standpoint, why should you actually consider this over, say, doing your own thing at home. So I'm going to show you how to use the capsules. It's incredibly easy. We'll then talk about the ordering process, costs, and then, well, why would you maybe want to consider using this or investing in something like this than an actual setup at home? And if you already do have a setup at home, why should you maybe consider this? Okay, so let me actually show you how to make a drink using the capsules. It's really easy. So I'm going to make an iced latte since it's really hot right now in the Bay Area. But I have the Red Bay coffee here. This is the East 14th, which is a dark roast, which I think is actually going to be perfect for this iced latte. This is how I melt the capsule. What I'll do is I'll take a cup here, I'll put the actual capsule inside of there. Then I conveniently have a heated Cometeer EKG Corvo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour in this hot water here. I'm going to take a spoon. I'm going to use the spoon to kind of just weigh everything down to make sure that the capsule is actually submerged. I'm going to let this melt. It will probably only take about a minute or two to actually melt. On all of these capsules, you'll see the actual name, the roast level, and the expiration date. And because they are frozen, the shelf life is much longer than whole beans or pre-ground coffee. Depending on how hot of a water you put in here and how long you let it heat up, that will actually determine how hot the initial drink base is. So depending on what type of drink you're making, you may prefer to use a hotter temperature, hotter melting temperature for the capsules. You can even run this under the sink if you really wanted to. So the reason why I use a spoon is because there's kind of an air gap inside of the capsule that gets frozen when they freeze it. And when you add the water in, it will float up, and you use the spoon just to keep everything down to make sure that the entire frozen puck is all heated inside of the capsule here. Now I'm going to take that out. This is hot because I was using boiling water. And as you can hear, that is indeed now a liquid. And now I'm just going to open this guy up, and I'm going to pour it into my milk and make an iced latte. Okay, so I've opened it up, and there you go. I was kind of shaking it around, so you do see there are a little bit of bubbles there, but this is pretty warm. And then now I'm just gonna pour that in there. Look at that. And then once you finish pouring, you'll see that I did shake it a little, so there were some bubbles that formed. But yeah, this is an iced latte. I'm just gonna actually give this a little bit of a stir. This is a dark roast, so it will work really well for an iced latte. Yeah, that tastes good because it's in a diluted form like a latte. If I put it in water, it would also be diluted. And yeah, this is very acceptable given that I didn't have to grind beans, I didn't have to prep a puck, I didn't have to do any of that. All I had to do was melt a capsule, pour it in some milk, and I was done. That's actually pretty good considering it was that easy. This is why Cometeer is so good right here. This is a perfect example, is that it was so easy and I got something that was actually very acceptable. Now, let me talk about the quality of puck or quality of coffee that they've put inside of each of these capsules. Like, is it any good? And my answer is yes, it's actually really good. It's 26 grams just frozen in here. And whatever Cometeer and the roaster have figured out is actually quite good. I would say acceptable most of the times. Like, if I could rank maybe out of 10, I would say these are probably in that 8 to 9-ish territory actually of quality inside of here versus even doing a fresh brew by yourself. And I want to approach this more from, say, a beginner perspective. I'm going to say this: if you are a beginner and you are brewing coffee at home, I can guarantee that you probably won't be able to get a cup that's as good as a Cometeer capsule in your first few months of brewing, simply because you have to learn through trial and error how to taste, how to brew, how to properly build your technique and brew good coffee. This is already at a very high standard, and that is kind of the appeal. If you just wanted to dip your toes into specialty coffee, just say, what is it like? What could I actually make at home if I wanted to invest in a setup? I think this actually tells you a really good idea as to, yeah, you're gonna know you're doing it right because it's so easy. And then eventually you can build up those skills and invest the money and invest the time in a setup. And you can probably get a cup that is better than this. The fact that this is so good is a bit scary because it's like, why do all of this? Like, why invest the money and time into doing a pour over at home or doing espresso at home when you have such a good baseline and it's just so simple? Well, this is the difference between if you wanted to go after coffee for convenience or go after coffee for the experience of it, is that it's just 2-3 steps. Whereas if you're a hobbyist in the coffee world, you might not actually be brewing coffee for the end result. You might actually be brewing coffee because of the process of prepping a puck, the process of pouring, doing a good pour over. And ultimately, I would argue that doing those right are much more satisfying than brewing a Cometeer capsule. But your end results might actually be worse if you're a beginner. But if you're a seasoned enthusiast, if you spend a lot of time brewing your coffee at home, you're probably going to be able to get a better cup of coffee than Cometeer. Another big benefit of Cometeer is actually the consistency. Every single capsule that I've tried, if they're from the same box, they all taste the same. They all taste pretty good every single time. And I think that is a very, very amazing thing because I oftentimes remember when I was a beginner, I brew a good cup one day, the next day it doesn't taste so good. With this, every single cup has always tasted the same if I dilute the same ratio. It all tastes really good. And that is something that is incredibly appealing because that means if you're trying to just figure out this specialty coffee stuff, you can see that you're always going to get a good cup of coffee every single day. And I think this is a great gateway in that sense to understanding specialty coffee at home. So now let me talk about what you can actually do with these Cometeer capsules, like what kind of drinks you can make, what is the experience of that, maybe some nitpicks that I have about it, and who's it really for, and then we'll talk about like ordering and all of that. So again, these are 26 grams of this concentrated coffee that is then frozen in here. The way to kind of think about these capsules is that they're similar to an adaptable espresso shot. Now there's a slight caveat with that, which we'll touch upon, but you can use this and make your lattes. You can indeed pour latte art into them, and also you can use it to make filter style coffee, like pour over style coffee. But I actually have been really enjoying them in milk, in my iced lattes actually. That's kind of what I've used most of these Cometeer capsules for, is in a milk-based drink like an iced latte. And I always think it tastes good. There's never really inconsistencies in the 26 grams here, whereas I've definitely pulled some espresso shots for my ice drinks that I didn't like. But I've always liked everything out of this. Now let's talk about what you can and can't do with Cometeer capsules versus whole beans. So as I mentioned, you can pretty much make most drinks, but there is a slight asterisk or caveat on that. This is a concentrated brew in here of some sort. It isn't an espresso because there isn't actually texture in here, or there's like very mild texture to it, but there isn't crema or release of CO2 gases like you'd find in an actual espresso shot. So what does that actually mean? Well, that means that there are slight differences when you make a drink like in Americano, for example. There isn't that bitterness that you find out of crema. Or when you drink it straight, you aren't really finding the texture that you would find out of a shot of espresso. When you dilute this with water, it's more like a pour-over filter style coffee, but you won't get that slight bitterness that you may find in an Americano that is actually pretty preferable in my opinion. Another thing to note is that in hot drinks, say you were making a latte or cappuccino, using this as a base for your latte is a little bit difficult to pour into because there isn't the crema that you would find. This is a very slight nitpick for latte artists, is that you don't have the texture that you would find in a traditional double shot of espresso. So you don't have the crema and you don't have the body. So when you pour into it, it may not feel as good to pour, but you can indeed get latte art using these capsules. So those are the very slight differences between Cometeer capsules and whole bean espresso brews. The thing that you cannot do with Cometeer capsules is full flexibility in your adjustments of really dialing in. That actually isn't a bad thing because Cometeer and the roaster have actually done an amazing job at figuring out what is good, like what should we actually put in here before you dilute. And that's a great thing because your drinks are all going to be pretty good, but that means that you don't really have flexibility in terms of adjusting your drinks. So the only thing you can do actually is add more milk, add more water, dilute the drink differently. You can't actually adjust the, base of your drink. Whereas in a whole bean brew, say you're pulling espresso or doing filter coffee, you can adjust a lot of different things, especially with technique and ratios there. So you just have more flexibility out of whole beans. You can pull longer, you can have a different pouring technique. But what I will say is that, again, the stuff they've put in here is actually very good. If you even started with, say, the exact same whole beans as the Cometeer capsule, with those whole beans, you can do a lot more in terms of adjustments. Now, that also could be a bad thing too, because what do you actually adjust for, right? But this is just always competent. It's always good no matter what you put it into, and I love that. So because it makes it so much easier. You really aren't sitting and looking up stuff like, well, maybe I should pour faster, or maybe I should brew a longer ratio, or maybe I should adjust the temperature of my machine or kettle. It just is always competent, and that is why I really like these Cometeer capsules. So let me now talk about use cases. Why should you really consider this if you're, say, a beginner, or say you already have a setup, and then we'll talk about ordering. Now, if you're a beginner, I think there is an incredible appeal to these capsules simply because they are just really good. You aren't going to really get the consistency and quality of brew and end result in the cup, really, if you're an absolute beginner, simply because you don't have maybe the money invested in the setup or the time and technique that is really needed to brew a good cup, especially out of more manual processes like a pour over, for example. And I think that really serves as a gateway into seeing how good your brew at home can be. If you were a beginner and you knew you wanted to try picking up coffee as a hobby and you wanted to explore coffee, then I don't think these are for you. Because exploring coffee as a beginner, it's really fun actually to just try things. Like try brewing different ratios, try using different techniques, seeing the end result in the cup and learning from that. You really aren't going to get that experience out of Cometeer, but the capsules will serve as a way to show you how good your brews at home can be, and you can actually surpass these brews once you build up your technique. And I think that is really appealing too if you're a beginner, is just seeing like, hey, how good can I actually get without actually having to go to the shop of these roasters and trying it out. Because I think the question at home often, if you're a beginner, is like, am I doing it right? Is this actually how it's supposed to taste? I think using the capsules will tell you exactly how it's supposed to taste. And then if you have the whole bean version of it, you can then try to get it to taste like this and then adjust to your liking. If you have a setup at home, why would you consider these? I think the one aspect of this that is very underrated, that like I'm talking about this philosophical enjoying technique stuff, is actually just the pure convenience. Like this is ridiculously convenient to use. I think there are a lot of cases, even if you're at home and you have these setups, if you say you have a double boiler, that thing's gonna take half an hour to heat up versus even a decent, like I have a decent, still takes 4 minutes to heat up. Sometimes you just can't afford the time and you need coffee now. This is just a superior option in my opinion. And if you have really high standards at home, this is going to get you somewhere that is basically pretty near probably whatever you're able to pull at home, but it's going to be so much easier to do. Another thing to consider is if you're lucky enough to have a partner, unlike yours truly here, teaching them how to do espresso or pour over is pretty complicated. And I know a lot of you guys who have spouses who have said, hey, you spent thousands of dollars on an espresso setup, you better use that every single day, and you better make me drinks every single day. And sometimes you may just not wake up in time to make them a drink. You can point them to this, and this will be much easier. You can teach anybody to use Cometeer capsules. I think teaching someone how to do a pour over or teaching them how to do a good espresso, that's a lot more difficult. So this is a convenience thing. And I just think if you have a setup, there's a great use case for this as well. So now let me talk about ordering this. So you'll go onto their website and there is an invite system, which I will talk about after this, but you sign up essentially, you hope you get off the wait list, and they let you pick, it's a quiz and you get to pick what you want. Now I did the basic pilot program and it cost me $64 for 4 of these boxes. And if I can put it here, so they give you the pilot program and they let you try different roasts from different roasters, different roast levels, obviously. And yeah, it's all been pretty good. The thing is how they ship it to you is they'll ship it to you in a dry ice container with 4 of these in here. You'll get some packets and all of that. They'll tell you how to melt them and all the different drinks you can make, obviously, with Cometeer capsules. So that means each capsule is $2 per cup. So you get 32 different capsules, $2 per cup. Is that actually that bad? Yes and no. I think at home you can get your cost per drink a little bit lower, but you do have to invest money at the beginning. But it really depends on how much coffee you're drinking. I think once you invest money in a setup, you'll find you'll probably be drinking a lot more coffee at home than you would have imagined. At this $2 per cup price point, I don't really think it's that bad because it's just so easy to do. And also, I will make the argument that I've definitely had Cometeer capsules that have tasted much better than $6 lattes that I've paid for at coffee shops. And this only cost me $2 plus the cost of milk and my time. Not too bad in my opinion, but there is a invite system. They're trying to get people to get in, and I want you guys to take advantage of it. They're trying to get people to try Cometeer, obviously. And this isn't paid or sponsored, although if they want to sponsor me, please reach out. But Cometeer you'll get 50% off of your first order. There, I think 20 people can use the link below, and if you invite your friends, you can get points for well, cool fellow products like the EKG Corvo and tasting glasses. For obvious reasons, I already have one with the Cometeer logo on it. I think at that 50% off first order, it's pretty appealing just to try and see. I think $32 for 32 capsules is a pretty good price point, considering that's basically 1.5 bags of coffee, and you're getting a lot more coffee out of this than a bag. Try that link out, see if it works. Please take advantage of it. If I do end up getting points to get kettles and stuff like that, I'll send them out to you guys or something. Someone will win one, just give it to you. And yeah, that's Cometeer. These are just so accessible. I just love that they're bringing accessibility of really fancy techniques, really high-end coffee into such an easy to brew form. And I just really like that, and that's kind of the direction I like to see the industry head in, is bring these crazy techniques and make it easy. And this, I don't really think there is an easier way of brewing high-end specialty coffee at home. So those are my thoughts on Cometeer capsules. Please let me know if you have any questions or your thoughts on maybe if there's an easier way to brew high-end coffee at home or specialty coffee at home. And let me know what you think about these capsules. Would you buy them? I bought them and I think they're great. So thank you again for spending the time to watch the video. Let me know if you have any questions, and please feel free to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, all of that good stuff. And thanks again.